This is Blame It on Vanity by Denise, Vanity Matthews, Chapter 23, Excuses Come. It all seemed so natural in the beginning, relying on my own cooperation, being in possession of my own Johnny Cochran sitting atop my shoulder pads with a megaphone in one hand, pleading me to believe how faultless Vanity was. I was being surrounded by yet another suite of the best attorneys looking for the needle in a haystack and contracts piled higher than the empire to keep my life from being sewn up for several years and then some. Run, 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 screamed all the tin soldiers, medals pinned to their chests and buttons reading, I want to be your lawyer and keep that wretched fan-loving name. Without speculation, I had already paid them to agree with the gall of my unrighteous title, Vanity, and they, articulating well, having read the fine print in my contract, stated, it's time to give up the name Vanity Six, Missy. Vagoda, having been the wiser of the lot, snatched up my destiny, handed me back the name Vanity, and assassinated the Six. I should have known. Hal had been my ever-faithful manager, best friend, and confidant, teaching me the root base of Hollywood's business. He continuously explained all the fine details of my faintly printed contracts. He eliminated the secret surprises and hidden agendas, hoping to refrain me from slightly lowering my right brow. It was needful for me to make my own final decisions with his expertise guiding me. He showed me how important it was to be bold, show up at some of the meetings without him, and handle some of my business alone. They'll take you more serious in the long run, he said, smiling. Hal, my manager, everybody needs one. So tell us why you left the entourage, Vanity. In the short of it, reflect. So, tell us why you left the entourage, Miss Vanity. In the short of it, reflect, dodge, and deny, my faultless model to the many questions crashing through my brick wall, brain splitting thrice, having rushed to excuses.com and found no solace. Seeing there wasn't much time to spend alone and collect my thoughts, I opted for taking a deep breath, counting to 10, and then I ran to hide and get over it. An open hit list of ball-fisted questions from journalists being quite disciplined to screen the truth that was sleeping under my bed all those years, building up an assumption of much hearsay, theories, motives, and mights. The unprofitable answer to the profitable question was undoubtedly materialistic, but certainly not brutal, simply money. $250 a week paid out by the company didn't seem to be keeping the fresh Italian bread buttered, jellied, or caviared as I'd wanted it. The cut and dry of it, girl departs the weathered windy city, girl gets crazy explosive, and for the most part, certainly not content to just breathe in the pretty perfume spot at Neiland Marcus, but actually purchase the chic fragrances. I heard Chanel calling me. Someone once said the greatest journey that anyone can take is the distance between two people in love. But there was another place of yearning, and I was bitter and exasperated from trying to hold on anymore. I was running on the wrong side of the tracks, being on a rich side, but staring at everyone's riches, and the richer got richer. Though somewhat weary and distressed, my ship sailed 1,000 seas, following new shapely, shocking, and shake-me-up dreams. I was hoping for a wider hip, boot stuffed full of presidents' faces and a collection of contracts more benefiting to my blood pressure. Lobster delicately splashed around in a European salty butter, whilst very expensive champagne bubbled inward and upward in my crystal glass. My silver spoon easily slid into Grand Marnier soufflés, therefore my palate tasted the most superb of life's delicacies. The meat was exquisitely tenderized, tasty, and habit-forming. I had grown accustomed to the finer things of life, lusting after the most spectacular entertainment announced. My every wish was met, and the red carpets were shampooed and ready for my heels. I longed to be in the peripheral of every man's eye, meanwhile unleashing my number to the populace, popularized my otherwise lonesome nights inside. If only I could see him once again, for I had missed him madly and found myself lurking for him in many a twisted corner. My garment became more snaggable, being on the less cotton, more cashmere silk and satin side. And listen, finally rich enough to soothe over my complexion with Lancome's cosmetics, thus adding it to the royal trinkets of a young lady's clutch bag. I possessed multicolored shades of everything, including clothes, shoes, and lingerie. Was this it for me? Had I finally reached my pinnacle of success and retreated to obsessing over toiletries? Was this my yellow brick road I'd been so earnestly searching for? It all felt quite shallow indeed, And when then, oh, where was my pearly white fairy to whisk away my broken heart, stop me up in a bottle, and thrust me to my Prince Charming? Maybe she snagged her wing on a twig somewhere. Invariably, the rules became mine to bend, break, and monopolize. I delighted in my own pocketful of colorful facades, with only I to choose when to rest, vacate, or come hither, or how much noise I wished to make. Thus I had become the spoiled little child I disliked. That which our strange adolescent years don't teach us, our latter years will. Life waiting patiently for our own children to be born and thus making us ready to reap what we have sown. My view is that the whole earth swirls about, having built upon that one magnificent law, and it makes me want to love a little deeper. How quickly my wheels abruptly thus turned away and headed for a more sinister, immoral, wicked destination. Much to my demise, I became the fallacious songstress I had first learned to despise, a bizarre fiasco in a more expensive atmosphere. I continued down the path of being lost in space, weary of catching the tears that fell to my hands. Tick-tock went my clock, and time kept flying by, leaving me with all my eccentric imaginings that spun loosely in my head like a dizzy bee smashing up against a windshield. So what was I missing, I thought to myself. So many years gone by, and had I gotten used to that hypocrisy severely grown within me, my looking glass was cracked and smudged and needed some fresh spit to make clean. My frown cut deeper, and a rather callous look reflecting back a miserable conclusion. But why did I keep moving forward towards Ill Street, recklessly ignoring all my good rotting away in me? I submitted to my flesh by traveling down the malevolent road, the disparaging path of nothingness. I was disappearing down into the chambers of death and fatality. I hid quietly and silently, endless pity uninterrupted. My drug habit was forming. Drop zone, cast the devil out. I was irresistibly drawn to flight, still am, and I was so easily caught up to enjoy any ride of height resembling the crazy drop zone. One night content, I enjoyed every kind of peculiar people imaginable, and most gladly when their wings of optimism flew in the direction of my selfish, devilish desires. But what to expect from an immature, aggressively flirtatious pubescent? My journey grew even more carnal, lustful, listless, nothing like I'd imagined, nothing of the sort. Why, my dreams imagined days filled with chocolate pleasantries, diamonds, and amusement parks, as some were, but I wanted to be happy every waking moment. That was how they'd portrayed it in the moving pictures, with flames of affection and a cavalcade of Don Juans pouring out their fictitious, garrulous love for one another. Everything appeared quite genuinely ingenious in the beginning. Isn't that how it usually is when one travels that devil's highway? When one travels down that devil's highway? Indeed, in my latter state, it made me speculate on how I had endeavored to live without God in the first place. Our God, who exemplifies all truth, and I, having thus far assembled enough ruin for one life, poked my head into yet even more evil, experiencing more pain. Why would I subject myself to be depressed any farther? Why snuggle up to or ingratiate myself with this joker or dabble in his vestibule of witchcraft? Yes, I had been caught up, captured, and captivated, held prisoner, and tormented by deceit. It was visible for some and invisible for others. I must confess, had I been forced years ago into an acquisition, I would have provided you with thorough answers or refused you kindly with a riddle of questions leading you to question. I was atrocious, somewhat like the Mad Hatter. And that was chapter 23, called Excuses.com.